Hey guys and welcome to my channel. Today we are doing, what if Godzilla was in Attack on Titan? Once again a year has passed and a world once filled with titans, ancient beasts, now mark their return to the world. But can mankind live in this new world while another change will take place? Who is friend and who is enemy, and what will this mean for the rogue titan shifter Eren and the great predator Godzilla? With that out of the way, let's begin this what if. Chapter 6, Old and New. It has been 2 weeks since these nebulons made their presence known. Already they are adding some new advancements in the core, weapons they call automatic rifles, laser guns, and even updated a weapon Hang was making called a thunder spear. They even managed to fix the walls in what normally could have been done near a week. They did it in 50 seconds, using some cube that lifted the rubble. Finally, in 2 weeks we were able to go back to Tanakibo, since it seems we are no longer needed. When we arrived, a new district had been added named Tanakibo Bay. Really does sound appropriate. The main source of food in the district is from the sea, since there wasn't a large surplus of cropland anymore thanks to the increased amount of kaiju attacks. It seemed to be a fair trade-off though, plenty of fish, squid, and a large seaweed forest deep down. And a large lobster/shrimp thing. It was hard to miss the carcass when we arrived, and Anguirus was enjoying its claws when we arrived. It feels nice being here again, but even still there was no getting rid of the excitement of the newcomers. It seems news travels fast. When we were getting ready for our trip back, Levi, Jean, and Connie came to us with a woman in orange, meaning she is a Nebulon. She said her name is Ilsa after the form she took. She said she wishes to see Tanakibo and spread the Nebulon's message of help, along with Levi, Jean, and Connie as her bodyguards. Seems not everyone is liking them. Mainly the Wallist and most recently Sasha, she just doesn't trust them. I can't really say I blame them. After all, how can you trust something that walks around wearing the bodies of the dead and treats them like they were some damned clothes? Snap. Damn it, said Eren holding his now broken pencil. I guess writing your feelings is not helping, is it? Eren looked up to see Mickey and Laura. It's helping a little, said Eren, putting the book away in his coat. Do you know where Armin and Mikasa are? Laura giggled. They are in the market with Maul to visit her new boyfriend. Now Laura, don't make fun of Maul, she is just helping Sanda out, the poor guy seems to have been through a lot, said Mickey. Eren frowned a bit. And where is Ilsa? Mickey sighed. She was in the market as well, but she left to observe the Crystal Memorial. Don't worry, Levi is still with her. Eren grumbled a little as he stood up and walked towards the market while Mickey and Laura followed. Eren, I know how you feel about this, but you have to know that they are helping us out, said Mickey. With their help we already begin to make more houses and construct towers. Well, minus the walls, giggled Laura. Aren't you at least a bit upset that they are using the dead as Sunday suits? Eren shouted, nearly causing a scene. Mickey then got in front of him. Eren, calm down. Listen, I know what you told me about their queen, but you also told me that she is using your mother's body as a symbol to help us. Eren looked away, but Mickey gently grabbed his face to look at him. Now I admit that this is both strange and wrong on how they do it, but right now we must accept their difference. After all, for survival, we need all the help we can get. Eren took a deep breath and smiled as Mickey returned it, then gave Eren a hug. Laura smiled at this nice scene, unaware that Mikasa watched the whole thing. She walked back to the market, showing more of a brooding face. Meanwhile at the market, more people went out, and since the week had been extremely lit on attacks, everyone was doing some casual shopping. Armin was checking out some new cloaks, Sasha was picking more food, and Maul and Sanda were just browsing. Ever since Maul found Sandra, she has been helping him out. It seems the attacks on the wall by new titans and a Baragon really traumatized him. She offered to use her powers to help, but Sanda did not want to. It was understandable who would want to have someone invade their minds, but that did not stop her from trying to help. Remind me, Maul asked. When did you leave town again? Oh. Sanda cried out in surprise and almost dropped the basket. I left before the CRC Crystal Titan incident. Right, Maul said, not even lifting her head from the stall. He sighed in relief. That was way too close. He knew he couldn't blow his cover here of all places. Sanda was on his toes the entire time, coming up with backstories, claiming his home and family were demolished during the Kamakura's attack, even that he lost his job at the local cobbler. He wasn't good tea lying, at all, but he had to. If they found out he was one of the new shifters, they would kill him for sure. That reminds me, she continued. What's your last name? I could find she was interrupted by a crowd gathering behind them. Everyone looked in their direction to see an image form in the sky. This was commonplace the last 2 weeks. The Nebulons called this a holo broadcast, a way of publicly showing both settlements updates on how these visitors planned on helping humanity. This time, it was telling them about a new way to get between the walls and Tanakibo in only 2 hours, a bullet train system. Well, that will drive the horse breeders out, said Jean during the broadcast. That looks amazing, Jean, said Connie. How can you be so negative? The last broadcast got the metal workers riled up after they said their metals can instantly copy themselves. They're basically replacing everything. It is only a matter of time before that happens to us, said Jean. What do you mean? Asked Connie. If they keep going the way they are, then how long before they get the Titan and Kaiju problems taken care of for good? What will happen to the Survey Corps? The Kaiju Corps? All of it. What will happen to us? It is called progress. Jean and Connie both jumped at the voice to see the Nebulon Ilsa holding an orb projecting a holopad with Levi behind her. Without progress, the human race will never grow and improve themselves. You might as well go back to being food, she said, never taking her eyes off her device. Jean frowned. I really don't like her. We are not here to like her, we're here to guard her, said Levi. Soon the group came across the crystal monument, causing Ilsa to at last turn away from her device. So this is the crystal monument I have been hearing about. Remarkable, she said, touched the crystal. You never had one of them thrown at you, said Connie. Are you certain this is the only active one you could find, said Ilsa. Yes, the rest were all dust except this one, said Levi. It's too bad you wouldn't allow my people to take this for examination. Well, the people see this as a way to remember the fallen who died during the attack, said Connie. Ilsa took her hands off the crystal and turned towards her escorts. Let us continue on, shall we? The group moved while Ilsa took one last look at the crystal. Meanwhile, in the forest just outside of the town, a familiar set of faces stood by. Back here again? Garia complained. We walked all this way back, and you never said a word since you met back up with us. What for? Reiner finally turned to face them. What for? He said sternly, what for? Maybe it had something to do with you two completely ruining the entire plan. Garia cringed behind Gabara. As tough as he was, he still was afraid of the wrath of the armored titan. You can't put that on us, Gabara said. We were what? Reiner yelled, too busy snacking? Standing around to brag about your powers? Taking the fight too close to my position? And what happened because of that? We left empty-handed with one of our own captured. And you're here to clean up your little mess, because none of us leaves until we get Sanda back. What do we need him for? Gabara snapped. He's the weakest one, we're worth 6 of him. On our own we are ignorant and undisciplined. He interrupted. You two claimed to be our best soldiers in this war, and you couldn't do one simple task, keep the core away and give me room to secure in. You both blew it. Sure, Sanda may be the weakest, but he's loyal, always follows orders. I'd trade 100 of you for just 2 of him. And that is why we're getting him back. So we tear the town apart looking for him, Gara said. Don't worry, we can handle that. Wrong again, Reiner said. Thanks to the crystal monument in town square, we won't be able to transform. But luckily, thanks to Beast's little discovery, we found out that ordinary titans are able to bypass that flaw. I'm sending in a large wave of titans. Not large enough to finish anyone off, but enough to buy us time to sneak in and take Sanda out of here. You two are coming to assist me, unshifted. And our little newcomers from the sky? Garia asked. I've listened to the broadcasts, he said. They're too busy with the people behind the walls. They'll pay too much attention to the ones with political power and wealth to even notice, until it's too late. Besides, if you two don't muck this up, we'll be out of there before they can arrive. Korea grumbled under his breath about how unfair all this was on him. He imagined in his brain showing dominance by pounding Reiner into the ground, but last time he tried that Reiner simply overpowered him in armored form. All he got from it was a small scar behind his ear. Gabara, on the other hand, was getting really tired of having to listen to Reiner. After all, he could turn into a titan bigger than Reiner. So why does she have to keep on listening to him? Now get moving, Reiner demanded. A short while later, the sounds of seagulls and busy shoppers filled the air as the broadcast ended. It was pretty uneventful for about a half hour. Then it started. Police! Someone, an elderly woman, called out. "Calm down, ma'am," Sasha said as she came to her. "What happened?" "Down at the square," she gasped, "there was a theft. The whole city's police is on alert. I had no idea if the base division was aware." "What kind of theft would require the entire city to be on alert?" Armin asked. "The monument," the old woman cried out. "The memorial statue, the crystal was stolen." "Reiner," Armin said. "Had to be. He must have taken it last night." "R.R. Reiner?" Sanda asked, trying to sound convincing. "THT, that guy WW who betrayed the SS Survey Corps? Why would he do that?" Everyone looked up when they heard the sound. A rocket firing, then exploding sparks in the air. "The signal. So he could attack us," Mikasa said. Everyone strapped their gear back on as the townsfolk scurried in panic off to the shelters. "Go with the civilians, Sanda," Maul said. "It's too dangerous for you out here." Be careful," he said back. My peepa prayers to you." She took off with the others, secretly smiling. She didn't know why either. Nobody except Miss Sigusa ever said that to her. Maybe it felt nice that a complete stranger would do such a thing, maybe it was just that she felt a little more appreciated. Whatever the reason, she wished him the best too. It didn't take long before the gang saw what the commotion was about. Coming out of the forest, a swarm of 15-meter class titans charged out. "It almost seems like a joke," Sasha said. "Just like the old days before the giant scales showed up." Speaking of which, one of the titans ran ahead, but as it did, the ground shook and out from the ground came Anguirus, letting out a roar at the titan before grabbing it with his jaws and tossing it back at the group. Anguirus stood his ground as the titans continued their charge. Anguirus managed to stab one with his horn, then with his sonic roar sent 5 flying, but 2 managed to get past him, but not before being stabbed by the spikes on his tail. Even though Anguirus can handle the titans, it was clear that he was clearly outnumbered. Eren saw the flare and managed to join the group. Noticing Anguirus attacking the titans, the kaiju seems to be in trouble. "Let me go down there," Eren said. "With the crystal gone, I can shift and wipe them out." "Not alone, you're not," Mikasa said. "She's right," Maul said. "There's too many even for you. We'll have to work together on this one." Then Levi, Jean, and Connie arrived with Ilsa close behind looking at the battle. "Now would be a good time to get some of your special weapons out," said Connie. "I am an ambassador, not a soldier. I don't carry any weapons," said Ilsa. "The one time we could use one of your fancy alien things," said Jean. Levi then got out his blades. "We killed titans before kaiju and nebulons even got here. Now let us do our jobs." Everyone nodded and went off. Eren leapt down, biting his hand. As he touched the ground, he was transformed. The Rouge Titan had returned. Meanwhile, inside Kaiju Core Central, a small storm brewed. The place had been wrecked, every door ripped off its hinges, every cabinet opened, and the remaining offices that stood guard lie dead on the floor. "Where the hell is he?" Reiner shouted. "I've checked the prison cells already," Gabara complained. "He isn't in any of them." "Look again." Reiner barked, "Check the broom closets if you have to." Reiner," Gara asked, looking out the window. "What kind of titan is that?" In frustration, Reiner dropped the documents he was looking over, moving towards Goria. "What are you?" He saw what the green-haired boy was asking about, the Rouge Titan, brawling with two Titans at once. He smiled. "That's Eren," Reiner began. "If he's able to shift, then so can we." "Gabara." The redhead came running. "What now?" he asked. "You want to make up for your little mess up?" Reiner asked. "There's your answer. Take down Eren Yeager, but do not kill him. We need him alive and the coordinate intact. Bring him to me and whole town is yours to wreck, and if you want you can take down their kaiju. I owe that overgrown lizard for nearly making me deaf." Gabara smiled with glee. "Done," he said as he walked past. "What do we do?" Goria asked. "We wait," he answered. "If the ginger brat can't handle it on his own, then we jump in and double-team Eren while he's worn down." "What about his friends?" Goria asked. "There are too many Titans out there," Reiner grinned. "They'll be busy." Meanwhile, Eren punched his fist straight through the second Titan's throat, creating a perfect hole in its neck. He roared as the body fell. Turning his head right, he saw the others tangling with a group of 6. Before he took his first step in their direction, he heard a sound, the distinct crackle of thunder. It came from right behind him. Shifting his gaze, he looked to see a familiar face. The same Titan he saw back at the walls 2 weeks ago. That green monster Titan. Gabara smiled at him, like a schoolyard bully. Eren faced him in a battle stance. Mikasa landed on the roof after cutting the nape of 2 Titans and soon noticed the large green Titan. Her eyes widened to see Eren ready to charge. "No, Eren, don't fight it alone." But it was too late. With a roar, Eren charged. Gabara laughed at this while getting ready for a kick, but Eren saw this coming and dodged it. Then Eren made one big jump ready to claw at his long neck, but he was backhanded at the last moment. Eren landed at the edge of town while Gabara followed, knocking some houses along the way. Eren was about to get up, but quickly Gabara tore a piece of road off the ground, then threw it and it landed right on his back, pinning Eren down. Gabara laughed at this and was about to grab him, but Gabara then let out a roar of pain, caused by Anguirus biting his left leg. Enraged, Gabara started to use his fist to punch Anguirus' face. But the kaiju would not let go. Finally having enough, Gabara's horn started to glow as Gabara used both hands to grab Anguirus' face. A surge of electricity started to surround Anguirus. Anguirus tried to ignore the pain, but it was too great. He finally let go. Gabara kicked Anguirus in the face. Back at the town, Sasha landed near the edge, seeing Gabara beating down on Anguirus. "Hey! Leave my boy alone!" Sasha shouted without seeing a Titan behind her. Levi came in and with a quick slash killed the Titan and landed by Sasha. "Worry about yourself first, then you can worry about him later." "Captain! Look, the Titans!" shouted Armin. Levi turned and noticed that the Titans that entered the town started to head towards the bay area. Soon all the Titans started to head towards the bay, completely ignoring the humans. Gabara stopped his fun to know what was going on. The people that could not get to the shelter watched as each Titan walked in the bay into the water until they could not be seen. Seconds later, the water started to bubble and a beam of red fire shot out, then a figure erupted from the bay with a loud familiar roar. Godzilla stood up from the bay and walked onto land. In his hand is the body of a Titan with its head completely bitten off, and his back showed Titans stabbed by his dorsal plates. The people shouted in joy. "It's the great predator! Thank deliverance we're saved!" The people cheered, not caring that some of their houses were crushed by Godzilla as he walked. Gabara stood watching as Godzilla came towards him. Finally, this was his chance to prove once and for all that he was the strongest creature. He will succeed where Berlot failed. Killing the great predator. Gabara let out his roar and charged at Godzilla. Godzilla stopped and watched this new foe charge towards him. Godzilla then let out his atomic beam straight at Gabara's chest, pushing him back into the forest. Gabara fell to the ground and stood up while grabbing his chest. He took another look at Godzilla, then quickly ran into the forest. This did not go unseen by Reiner, who watched enraged. "That coward," he shouted. Then Reiner saw Gabara sniffing. "I smell him, Sanda, he is near." Godzilla let out a victory roar, even though it was a quick one. Godzilla looked at the Titan's body in his hand and quickly finished it. He was about to head back to the bay but noticed a Titan pinned by a boulder. Well, one more snack can't hurt. Mikasa managed to get to join the others near the edge of the town. "Did he get rid of the Titan?" said Mikasa, but no one answered. "Where is Eren?" Still no one answered. She looked at their faces. Armin, Sasha, Jean, Connie, Mickey, Maul, and Laura's faces were in horror. Mikasa looked out on the field and was terrified. Godzilla walked towards Eren still in his Titan form. He tossed away the boulder and grabbed him with his claws. Mikasa instantly knew what was going to happen as an image of the smiling Titan grabbed Eren's mother and filled her head. Mikasa activated her gear. Armin managed to catch her in time. "Mikasa, no," he shouted as he and Jean grabbed her. "Let go of me," she shouted. "I've got to save Eren. I've got to." "What? What are you going to do?" Jean shouted in her face. "What can you do against that? That creature managed to wipe out a swarm of Titans like they were nothing. It even managed to kill Berlot twice." "He's right," Levi said. "We may be able to kill Titans and Kaiju, but against that, there is nothing we can do." Mikasa did not want to listen. She wanted to go out there and save Eren. But they were right. What could she do against the great predator? Armin then got an idea. "Maul, you can do something." Everyone turned to Armin and looked at Maul. "You can use your powers to tell the predator to put Eren down, that he is a friend," said Armin. Maul was shocked. "Armin, that is the great predator, a champion of deliverance. I can't." Maul turned as Mikasa grabbed her arm. Mixes looked at Maul. Mickey surprisingly saw tears coming down from her eyes. "Please save Eren, please," begged Mikasa. Maul looked at Mikasa, then at Armin, then at everyone. She took a deep breath. "I need quiet." Maul walked to the grass and looked at Godzilla holding the rogue Titan in his claws. She pressed her hands together, her eyes closed and concentrated. Eren was petrified. He knew that there was nothing he could do. Eren was itching ever close to the predator's mouth. He knew that the great predator was going to kill him, and for some reason, he was fine with that. "The world doesn't need me anymore, not when it has you, and I guess this is going to happen someday. Well, at least I know that everyone will be safe. No more Titans." "Mikasa, I'm sorry." Then Eren heard singing in his ear and looked and saw he was close to Godzilla's mouth, but Godzilla did not put him in. Godzilla too could hear the singing, and slowly an image started to appear in his head, but then Godzilla in both shock and pain as he dropped Eren. Maul let out a scream as she grabbed her head and fell to the ground as the group ran to her. Eren landed on the ground as he grabbed his head in pain. As quickly as it came, the pain stopped. Eren felt a shadow over him. He looked up and saw Anguirus over him. As soon as Anguirus cleared his head from the beating, he was not about to let a member of his herd be killed. He was going to make his stand. Godzilla picked himself up when the first strange noise appeared in his head. Now this creature rammed into him, and worst of all, he suddenly felt angry. Very angry, and he knew where he could take it out on. The group watched as both Godzilla and Anguirus roared at each other, then Sasha's eyes widened. "Oh no, please, Anguirus, don't do it, please don't," she shouted. "What? What's going on?" said Connie. Finally, Ilsa spoke. "I believe that those two are going to fight each other." Chapter 7, Conflict. Maul opened her eyes while holding her head, feeling a slight sting on her brain. "Are you all right?" said Laura. "I think so." "What happened?" Maul said, finally getting better. "You used your abilities on the great predator to stop him from killing Eren, but Anguirus slammed into him, no doubt stopping the link." Maul opened her eyes, seeing Mickey looking at her. "Please forgive me, I didn't mean to force Deliverance's champion to." Mickey held out her hand and smiled sadly. "It's okay, you did it to help our friend. But I'm afraid things just got worse." Maul finally noticed Anguirus over Eren, still in his Titan form, while roaring at the great predator. Can't you use your powers to stop Anguirus? Said Armin. Laura shook her head. No, we can't. We were tired when old Mimic first came, but Anguirus is. He is just too stubborn to not get into a fight. Sasha finished Laura's words as she watched helplessly as her adopted son was getting ready for a fight. Levi looked at the two creatures, waiting to see which one would make the first move. He looked at Mikasa, still wanting to risk her life to get Eren out. Thankfully Armin and Jean were holding her back. He looked at Ilsa, or the Nebulon calling herself that, holding her device while looking at the creatures. Multitasking? Ilsa responded without looking away from the area. My device is recording this for posterity. This is the first time I've seen the Great Predator. Let alone in battle. After all, my people need more information on it than images from the mind scan. And what about Anguirus? Said Levi. If the creature is smart as it was written in the report, then hopefully it will survive. She said Dronefly. Eren managed to lift his head up more, and to his shock, he saw the predator's back glowing. Eren knew what that meant. He saw Anguirus moving back, but not in fear. The battle was about to begin. Godzilla was about to let loose his beam when suddenly Anguirus leaped towards him while rolling into a ball once again, slamming into him. In shock, Godzilla fired his beam at the sky as he fell to the ground. He stood up, his anger rising. But when he stood up, he was back down again by Anguirus's rolling form. Godzilla stood up fast as Anguirus jumped and rolled back at him. This time Godzilla expected this and wiped his tail at the oncoming object, sending Anguirus crashing into one of the demolished houses that was crushed by Godzilla earlier. Dust covering his body. Anguirus, cried Sasha. Sanda managed to find a group of evacuees he wanted to hide with, but he was worried about Maul. He blushed just thinking that. Sanda then saw a flaming object coming down from the sky right on top of them. Everyone look out. The group turned to Sanda. Mickey felt a dying presence from above. She looked up and saw the object. Everyone move now. Mickey shouted and pointed to the flaming object. The Corps activated their gear and moved everyone without grapplers out of the area quickly. After finding a safe location, they looked at the flaming from. What is it? Asked Connie. What? I think that's Rodan, said Jean. Rodan? You mean one of the kaiju that frequently attacks the walls, said Armin. Yes. My scans confirm this creature was Rodan, no doubt it was killed by the Great Predator's beam. Ilsa responded. Well, that's one kaiju we won't have to worry about, said Levi. Never mind that, what about Anguirus, said Sasha. And Eren, said Mikasa. Eren tried to get up, but it was difficult. It was like his titan body wanted to stay down. He obeyed the motion when he saw the Great Predator's back glow again. Quickly Godzilla fired his beam at the location his foe fell down, destroying any buildings still standing. Godzilla walked to the location to see the corpse of his foe, but when he arrived all that was there was a huge hole. Godzilla looked around for any signs of his opponent. Then the ground shook, causing Godzilla to tumble to the ground. Anguirus rose up from the ground roaring at the sky. Godzilla got up quickly, roaring at Anguirus. Anguirus jumped at Godzilla, but Godzilla was quick this time. He kicked him in the face, sending him back to the ground. Anguirus shook his head only for Godzilla to kick him again. Godzilla leaned down at him, but Anguirus let out his sonic scream at his face. The group could do nothing but watch as the two kaijus would not let go of the other. Sasha was about to jump in when she saw blood dripping from Anguirus's neck, until she heard something. Guys, did you hear that? She shouted. Hear what? Said Armin. I hear something too, said Levi. It sounds like it is coming in fast, said Sanda. The two creatures soon heard the sound themselves, causing both of them to let go for a moment. Suddenly, the source of the noise grew louder and something rammed them both overhead, knocking them both down. The group was in shock as a creature landed at the edge of the town. Its form, very familiar to a few of the group. Wait a second, is that Rodan? Said Connie. The Rodan let out a roar at the two kaijus. That can't be Rodan, and if it is, then what is that corpse? Shouted Jean. Judging from my scans, it is a Rodan, said Ilsa, looking at her device. Of course, this one is different from the one you have witnessed. As you can see, this one's beak is longer, it is about the same size as the great predator, and it has 3 horns on the back of its head. I would guess it is some sort of alpha of the species. Do you have an answer for everything? Glared at Sasha. Yes, I do, said Ilsa back to her machine. Godzilla got up first and roared at the newcomer. Rodan roared back at Godzilla, then he ran and flew right at Godzilla. Godzilla was about to charge up another beam, but Rodan was too fast and struck Godzilla's head with his spiked chest. Godzilla shaked his head and let out a quick beam at Rodan, but the giant pteranodon dodged. Rodan flew over Tanakibo with the beam still behind him, causing some more structures to be destroyed and some unlikely humans to be either flown back thanks to the fast air current or incinerated by the beam. When the beam died down, Rodan rammed right into Godzilla, knocking him down. I don't get it, why is it attacking the great predator, said Laura. I would guess that the burning corpse of the Rodan we saw was either this Rodan's mate or offspring, said Ilsa. I'm sure all of you are aware how angry one gets when their loved ones have been killed. Armin frowned at that, but looked at Mikasa, who was still looking at Eren. Why hasn't Eren gotten up yet? Thought Mikasa. Eren watched as Rodan pushed Godzilla backwards thanks to the gust of wind caused from the continuing flapping from its wings. Rodan roared at Godzilla while continuing his attack. He then flew up but roared in pain as Anguirus grabbed his leg by the jaw. Anguirus did not appreciate being interrupted from his battle and being knocked down. And he really did not like how this creature was helping to destroy his territory. Godzilla soon stood back up, glaring at his enemies. All 3 of the kaiju stood glaring at one another. On Godzilla's left was Rodan, and on his right Anguirus. Neither one of them moved, the whole area was silent as storm clouds started to appear. Then finally Godzilla charged, causing the others to charge as well. Anguirus on all 4s, and Rodan soaring right towards them. Soon all 3 clashed as the first batch of thunder sounded. Meanwhile, in the forest, Reiner was out of breath. He had been running from Tanakibo to the forest while avoiding the battle. Reiner was now in the middle of the woods looking for Gabara. Where are you? Come out and show yourself, you coward. Reiner shouted, but no sound was heard. Except one. Reiner thought it was the sound of the wind. Or a twister, but it sounded strange. He looked up in shock as a large object flew over him. He did not know what that was, but he guessed where it was going. To Tanakibo. Meanwhile, Eren tried again to get up, but no matter what he tried he could not stand. All he could do was watch as the battle continued. Godzilla tried to claw at Rodan as his talons clasped his neck and Anguirus dug his fangs into his tail. Rodan kept his grip around the neck and pulled with all his might, choking the life out of him or ripping his head off. Same goes with Anguirus trying to bite off his tail. Finally, Godzilla had enough and let out a nuclear pulse, pushing both kaijus away from him. Anguirus shook it off and stood his ground, while Rodan caught himself. He was about to attack when suddenly a blue beam struck him in the chest, causing him to fall to the ground. Godzilla and Anguirus paused and turned to the source of the attack. Eren was shocked. What caused that? Then he heard a sound like a twister, then he saw an object coming out of the forest. The group's eyes widened as the object appeared in full view. What the hell, said Jean in surprise. What is that, said Armin. Levi looked at Ilsa, showing her surprised expression. Ilsa moved her hand to a device attached to her left ear and said in a whisper, "Inform the Queen. We have a problem." Chapter 8, Questions. All was silent. The battle had stopped due to the arrival of this strange object. Eren, still within his Titan form, gazed at the object and thought, could this be another one of the Nebulon's machines? The object, unknowingly called the Gotengo, turned to face Godzilla. Godzilla glared at the intruder that dared to get involved with his battle. Anguirus was also not pleased on having another uninvited guest invade his territory. Suddenly the drill in front of the Gotengo started to turn and sparks of electricity started to surround it. Godzilla watched in confusion, but the drill was soon covered in yellow light. It fired a beam straight at him. The beam struck Godzilla straight at his chest, pushing him towards Tanakibo until the beam stopped, with Godzilla falling on crumbled houses in pain. "What the hell?" shouted Jean. "That thing just pushed the great predator to the ground like it was nothing," said Armin in shock. "What kind of power could have struck the great predator like that?" asked Mickey. "Why don't we ask our Nebulon friend?" said Levi. All eyes then turned to Isla, moving her hand away from her ear. "Well, do you know what that is?" asked Maul. Isla looked at them, then back at the Gotengo. "It is called the Gotengo." "The Go what?" said Jean. "Is it one of yours?" asked Laura. "No. It belongs to the enemies of peace," said Isla. "Enemies of peace," said Sasha. "What are you talking about? No, not again." Everyone turned to look at Sasha and what she saw. Anguirus crawled towards the Gotengo. He did not like how his actions damaged his home. Anguirus stood up on his hind legs and roared a challenge to it. "Anguirus! Get out of there!" shouted Sasha. But Anguirus did not listen to his adopted mother. He continued to issue his roar for a challenge. The group became more nervous as the Gotengo turned towards Anguirus. Anguirus soon fell in pain as the weapons continued their onslaught, striking first at his chest and then his back when he fell. The group could do nothing but hear the cries of agony and pain from Anguirus. Sasha, in tears, nearly ran to try and save him when she noticed something. "Guys, Aaron's finally getting up." Mikasa looked towards the rising form of the rogue titan and to her dismay, he started charging at the floating object. "Aaron," shouted Armin. "What's that idiot doing?" said Jean. Aaron could not stand to hear the cries of a comrade, be they human or kaiju. As he listened to Anguirus's roar of pain, he remembered the many friends he had lost. "No more. Leave him alone." Aaron let out a roar as he leaped heroic towards the object. Aaron managed to grab onto the side of the Gotengo, and that action caused the missiles to stop. Aaron raised his left fist and slammed the side, but that action caused his fist to break apart. This metal was a lot stronger than he thought. Then suddenly Aaron felt a wave of electricity surround his body. But no matter the pain, Aaron did not let go. After a minute the pain stopped. He lifted his head up and to his shock saw a human figure looking down on him from the top of the Gotengo. Due to the sun showing through the clouds, Aaron couldn't get a good look at the human, but he saw the figure holding something. And whatever it was pointing at. Bang, bang, bang. The blast from the object struck Aaron in the face and arms, completely severing his limbs and sending him down to the ground. Aaron could only watch as the figure returned to Gotengo. The Gotengo turned towards Aaron, but then a red beam struck the sides of the ship, pushing it away. "By deliverance," shouted Mickey as she saw Godzilla rising from the rubble, mad as hell. The Gotengo flew away from the town and disappeared into the forest. Still and enraged, Godzilla followed the object and would not stop until he crushed it. Godzilla soon passed the wounded Anguirus, not giving him a second look as he continued his path. Like his target, he disappeared into the forest. Blood slowly dripping from the wound in his neck, arms, and back, Anguirus slowly stood up and looked at his home. He saw the Rodan he fought rising up as well from the rubble, and flew up into the distance and thankfully away from his territory. Anguirus noticed Aaron's titan form on the ground. He walked up to it and gently picked him up with his jaw. Tanikbo's defender limped to the edge of the town where the group remained. Anguirus gently put Aaron down and with a single claw, cut the nape of the neck, freeing Aaron. Finally Anguirus collapsed to the ground. Sasha quickly ran to check him. "Aaron," shouted Mikasa, checking him. Ilsa walked up to Aaron and waved her device over him. Exhausted, but still alive, which is more than I can say for some of the poor souls who have not been evacuated. "All right, cut the crap," shouted Jean. "You know what that thing is," and said that they are enemies of peace, but what else? "Start talking." Unmoved by Jean's outburst, Ilsa kept her eyes on her device. Sorry, but I can't answer that now. Besides, there are more important things to do right now. She's right, said Levi. What? Said Connie. Yes, said Nikki. We have to check for any casualties and survivors of the attack. Yes, ma'am, said Maul and Laura. Levi turned to Ilsa. But after that, you have a lot of questions to answer. Ilsa looked back emotionless. Yes. It would seem I do. Meanwhile, within the walls, Historia looked down onto the village of Walsina from her bedroom window in the castle. For some time the people were afraid to even go near the Nebulons, but now they bow before them like gods. They enjoyed the wonderful technology that they gave them. Of course there are those who see the Nebulons' gifts as a means to take away their jobs, most recently the farmers. The Nebulons developed a device called a food dispenser, a machine they said could give out any kind of food we need. The Nebulons were very kind to first give to people who have nothing. And it has even been said that the Nebulons are already reconstructing the district of Shiganshina, and any titans that remained were quickly taken out by their ship or the kaijus. The kaijus, Historia thought. Ever since the Nebulons first appeared there have been no kaiju attacks in weeks. It was almost like they were afraid of the Nebulons. That of course seems silly to think about, since when they first appeared the kaijus managed to do what most humans in life could never do, managing to nearly end the threats of the titans. Historia leaned her head on the glass in a sigh. This talk about kaijus and titans made her remember her father Rod Rice and the first kaiju attack in the walls. She remembered him telling her about the family secret, him trying to make her into a shifter and eating Aaron. She, with the help of her friends, fought back only for her father to become a titan in the battle. She remembered her father's terrible form and the ground shaking from the kumonga lifting itself off from the ground. She recalled how the giant spider unleashed a swarm of webs from its mouth onto her father's body, but the steam managed to burn some of the webs. The onslaught managed to bring him down, and as tried to get up the kumonga crawled on his back and with its stinger pierced the nape of the neck, killing her father. Historia rubbed the bridge of her nose. She hated that memory, especially since she was to be the spider's next snack. Historia felt an arm surrounding her shoulder. She smiled and turned to see Emer smiling at her before she placed her lips on hers. After some time, the two decided that what they feel for each other should not be ignored or played around with. And so after 1 week since the Nebulons' arrival, they started their relationship. Emer wanted to keep it secret so the people would not overthrow Historia for dating a titan shifter. Their lips parted as they gazed at each other lovingly. You were a monster last night, purred Emer. Historia blushed. Emer, please, I just had a great teacher. Damn straight, smiled Emer, slowly moving her hands across Historia's back. Are you ready for round 2? Emer, I have duties to do, said Historia, but her hands moved from around the back of Emer's neck to her chest. Emer giggled. Please, you're the queen. I think you can get to work whenever you feel like it. Well, I suppose that's right, smiled Historia, giving into temptation. Their bodies moving closer to each other and... Attention please. Damn it, shouted Emer. Again, groaned Historia. The mood was gone. The couple went to the windows to see a floating cube with the face of a woman in orange clothes. Today's announcement is the near completion of the railway, which will gain access to other districts in the walls. Further reports of less titans nearing the walls, but right now there are exactly 10 titans approaching. Don't worry, our ship will deal with them in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The sides of the Nebulon ship glowed red as the oncoming titans near Wall Maria advanced. Soon a red beam burst from the ship and completely destroyed all titans from sight. The titans have now been destroyed, and I am Nebulon announcer Mina wishing you a great day. The Nebulons smiled as the cube vanished. Historia sighed. Another face of a dead friend they used. This was beginning to annoy her. Why could they not have thought of telling news in a better way, said Emer annoyed. Historia walked to sit on her bed. I don't mind their broadcast, well, maybe a little. What I'm more bothered by is the fact that they used the bodies of the dead. When I was near an orphanage, I saw one of the children hug a Nebulon's leg. The Nebulon looked like his mother. He was crying, saying that she came back to life after the Titan killed her. It broke my heart. Emer frowned seeing Historia like this. But her frown turned into a grin as she walked behind her and started massaging her shoulder blades. Historia's groans turned into satisfying moans. What say we get back to what we were doing? Emer whispered into her ear. Oh yes. Historia moaned. Knock, 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 knock. You got to be kidding me, groaned Historia as Emer fell backwards on the bed, frustrated. Historia got up and stomped to the door. How many times must I tell you all this? I do not wish to be disturbed when I'm in dash, but as soon as she opened the door her frustration turned to shock and worry as she saw a woman in orange clothes with silver lines and red medals on it. Queen Natalia. I'm so sorry, I did not know that dash, but Queen Natalia raised her hand. Please, don't worry about it. We're all queens, are we not? And please, just call me Natalia. Still, I must apologize for my behavior, said Historia. Again, no need, I should be the one to say sorry. After all, I interrupted your matting ritual, did I not? Historia's face went full red as Emer chuckled over this. Anyway, I came here to discuss some business with you, said Natalia entering the room. Your maid can stay if she wants. No, I better go. Besides, Hang wants me to help her with moving some kaiju bones, said Emer getting up from the bed. Better than having her cutting you up, right, said Natalia. Please. Have you ever carried a Varan bone? They are heavy, said Emer heading for the door. But not before giving Historia a wink. See you tonight, sweetheart. Historia blushed, but as soon as Emer left it was back to royal business. So what do you wish to discuss with me, Natalia? Natalia looked out at the window as she spoke. I wish to talk to you about the walls and the titans within them. Historia frowned. After discovering from Hang that the titan discovered in the walls was not the only one, she had to make sure not to bring too much of a panic to the people so only a select few know about it. And as a sign of cooperation she had to tell this secret to the Nebulons. Yes, what about them? Natalia began, still looking at the window. No doubt word has gone out that more people are finding out about the wall titans as you called them. And if they believe that you are collaborating with the church it will bring about an uprising. Historia raised an eyebrow, so what do you suggest? Natalia kept a visual watch down below. My suggestion is that you allow me and my people.to destroy the walls. Historia's eyes widened. Natalia, I understand what you are saying, but the people have lived within the walls for centuries, and if we allow them to be destroyed it will cause an outrage from the wallists. Natalia kept the composure. Day by day there are less people who see the walls as gods and have already left for Tanakibo. Besides, the walls are a relic of the past. And as such it is only natural to move on to the future. But dash ring. Ring. Hold on, I have a call, said Natalia, placing her right hand on the round device on her ear. The Nebulons told Historia that it is a form of communication between their race and they already have plans to introduce it to the humans. Historia found it to be a little weird. After all, talking to nothing but thin air is a form of madness. Yes, what has she to report? What? Historia flinched, she only heard her raise her voice once, but it still worries her. Natalia placed her left hand on the bedroom wall. Are you sure that's what she saw? Very well then, I will handle this. Inform her not to do anything until further notice, that is an order. Natalia took her hand away from her ear and turned around, facing Historia with a smile. I'm sorry, I'll have to cut this meeting short. I have an emergency to deal with. Natalia started to walk towards the door as Historia said, What is it? Oh, nothing to be bothered by, it's a Nebulon affair, said Natalia. Still, we are allies and anything you need I'll give. Natalia turned, her smile a little worrying to Historia. I'll make sure to hold you to that. As soon as Natalia left the room and journeyed down the hall she moved her hand back to the device. Fumio. Yes, Your Majesty, spoke from the device. It would seem that our pursuers have survived the crash. Have they? No. Only their ship was seen during a battle between their worlds, Godzilla, the town's guardian pet, and a Rodan. Still, my queen with them here, it's going to be a problem. Which is why you will assemble a small team of humans from either of their core. My queen, would it not be more simple to send our troops instead? No, the people are still very distrusting towards us. Besides, there is another mission that needs to be done. Understand, my queen. The capsule for Project Zero will be obtained before humans can gain it. Good. And inform Kubota that he is allowed to begin the next phase of his experiments. You sure, my queen? What about Natalia smiled. I was informed by the human queen that anything from her we can use. She could hear Fumio chuckle at that. He will be happy to hear about this, my queen. Fumio out. Back at Tanakibo. Maul was helping a child out of the rubble and giving him to his mother. Oh, thank you for finding him, she cried, holding him tight. Just hurry and find the rest of your family, and may deliverance be praised, smiled Maul. Sanda walked up to Maul. Any luck? She asked. Sanda turned away. TTT, their more DEAD bodies near the market. Maul sighed. At least they did not get eaten by those monsters. Sanda frowned. Yeah. Monsters. Maul noticed Sanda feeling down. Sanda, what's wrong? Sanda shook the feeling away. Nothing, Maul. I'll just need TT to check TT that a ally for a minuet. Sanda managed to avoid Maul. He had to be careful, especially around mind readers. All it would take is to look into his mind and he is dead. Maul would not do that, he thought, but I can't risk it if his thoughts were interrupted by a crunching noise in the alley. He looked in shock and horror. Right there, standing on top of the dead man's body, was his brother Gara. Gara smiled wickedly at him while holding the severed arm of the dead man with a huge bite mark on it. Sanda trembled in fear. He looked around trying to see if Reiner was around. No, just him and his brother, and that even more scared him. Gara tossed the arm away and placed his finger on his lips silently, telling Sanda to be quiet. Then he motioned his finger for Sanda to follow him. Sanda looks back to where he left Maul. It would be so simple to just run to Maul and warn her about Gara, but then Gara could tell them about Sanda and he would end up in the same cell as his brother. Or worse. Sanda sighed and followed his brother away from the area. Sanda, I came to check on you. I hope you don't mind that I. Maul stopped and tried to find Sanda. Where did he go? Meanwhile, back at the walls, somewhere underneath. Two guards stand in front of a locked door, holding a new weapon made by the Nebulons, an automatic rifle, they called it. One of the guards was admiring his new weapon. Careful with that, do you want to shoot your eye out? Sorry, I'm just admiring my new weapon. You gotta love those Nebulon guys and their technologies, said the first guard. Oh please, you know I heard that those orange guys are just a bunch of big bugs in disguise, said the second guard. I mean, can you imagine walking right next to a big, ugly, disgusting? Ahem. The guard stood straight up, seeing Kubota and 4 other Nebulons, this time wearing orange and black. Oh sorry, what are you doing here, said the second guard. I am here to relieve you of 2 of your guard duties, said Kubota. Well, we don't mind, sir. After all, this is one prisoner who won't try to escape, said the first guard. And besides, no one told us about this, said the second guard. Kubota nodded. Don't worry about it, you will be fully rewarded for your active duties. I think these will be worth your trouble. Kubota pulled out 2 lumps of rock from his pocket. The guards took a closer look and were shocked by what they saw. Is that gold? Said the first guard. Kubota smiled. Enough to make both of your families rich for all time, he said, giving them gold. Try not to spend it all in one place. Oh no, we won't, sir. Smiled the first guard. I told you those guys are great, said the second guard. As soon as the guards left Kubota's side, idiotic apes. Kubota opened the door and he motioned 2 of the other Nebulons to stay in guard, while the other 2 followed him in. Is this what you wanted to find, sir? Said one of the Nebulons. Kubota smiled. Yes, she is just the one we are looking for. Kubota chuckled at the sight of a large crystal object, and encased within was the human form of the female Titan shifter Annie. You hand me the device, Kubota commanded to the one on his right. The Nebulon gave Kubota a triangle-shaped pad. Kubota then walked towards the crystal and placed the pad on the front. The pad did not fall from the object and Kubota pushed in front of it, causing it to emit a green glow pulsing in and out. Then slowly green tendrils started to wrap around the surface until it completely covered the crystal. Then as it glowed brighter, the encased crystal vanished. Kubota turned to his men. Well, the transportation was a success, sir. Kubota smiled. Good, then let's begin, shall we? Chapter 9, Answers and a Mission. Mickey was walking back and forth near the entrance of the town hall, waiting for the others to return. Finally Maul, Laura, Aaron, Mikasa, Armin and the others arrive. What's the damage? Mickey asked, hoping for some good news. Levi walked up to her. To put it simply, he said, there are a lot more wounded and less deaths. Then the group noticed Ilsa looking over her pad again. There are over 18 wounded and 20 dead. I suppose that is what you get from not following proper evacuation procedures. She stopped typing as she saw everyone looking at her. I suppose you wanted the news to be a little kinder, don't you? I'll just make a note and dash. Suddenly Levi grabbed her pad and tossed it behind him. The cleanup is done and you have something to tell us. Now. Everyone was silent. Levi flinched a little when Ilsa looked at him. She had a calm face, but when he looked at her eyes, he could see rage building up. Without warning, a blue beam descended down behind Ilsa. Everyone except Ilsa moved back, and when the beam died out, it showed Fumio along with Hang, Moblet, Dieter, Hitch and Marlowe. That is still awesome, shouted Hang while Moblet, Dieter, and Hitch barfed on the floor. Marlowe rolled his eyes at that action. He said not to move. Marlowe quickly covered his mouth and swallowed his lunch back down. Fumio ignored them and walked up to Ilsa. I was sent here by the Queen as soon as she heard your report. I could think of no one else the Queen would send, but you, sir, Ilsa said as she bowed in respect. What are you doing here, glasses? Frowned Levi. Hang gave her trademark grin. Fumio said the Queen picked us personally to go with Fumio here. Plus, I really wanted to see that new machine. Fumio turned to the group. No doubt you all will be wanting answers to the Gotengo? That is an understatement, said Jean. I assume everyone is here, said Fumio. Armin stepped up. No, Sasha is with Angurius, checking on his wounds. Laura looked at Maul. Where's Sanda? Maul snapped out of her thoughts and said, I don't know, last time I saw him he was checking out wreckage. I haven't seen him since. Well, we can explain it to them later, said Fumio as he walked to the doors of the town hall as everyone joined him. The inside of the town hall was filled with paintings showing the building of Tanakibo, then of Godzilla fighting Crystalak the Crystal Titan, then in the middle of the hall hung a tapestry with the image of Godzilla standing over the burning bodies of Titans. Impressive artwork, said Fumio. Yeah, it's amazing. Now about that giant thing in the sky that managed to take down 3 kaijus, said Connie. Indeed, said Fumio. He looked at Mickey. Where shall we sit? Mickey pointed to a round table for them all to sit. Everyone took a seat. Now about this, Gotengo, said Mickey. Fumio nodded. Yes, but before I tell you about it. Oh great, more stalling, whispered Laura. Maul shushed her. Fumio sighed. As I was saying, there was something we neglected to say. Levi raised his eyebrow. What did you neglect to mention? Everyone was listening carefully to this. Fumio coughed in his hand. We did not come to your world by choice. What do you mean? Asked Aaron. Fumio continued. We were chased to this planet by our enemies. I thought you bugs didn't, said Levi. Levi, don't be rude, said Mickey. On the contrary, Ilsa said while cleaning her pad. There are a few if not many lifeforms in the galaxy that can be quite displeasing. By that I mean personality-wise. And this Gotengo is piloted by these enemies? Asked Marlowe. Ilsa had her eyes at her pad but she still answered. Yes, you could say they are the deadliest of foes our people have ever faced. Nearly everyone in the room was a little nervous. Anything that can threaten the Nebulons must really be something. "Geez, what do they look like?" said Connie. "Sadly, we cannot give you an image, but I can say that with the use of our technology one have no doubt that they have taken human form as we have," said Ilsa. Laura gasped, "You mean they could be here in Tanakibo?" "Or within the walls," said Mikasa. Fumio chuckled. "Do not worry, when we came to your walls we did a scan for our enemy and they were no here. And in my time here I could not trace any signs of them here," finished Ilsa. "Okay, that is very nice and all, but you didn't get to tell us what they are called," asked Tang with anticipation. Fumio and Ilsa both looked at each other and went back to the group. Fumio spoke first. "Their names are hard to pronounce in your language, we just simply call them the enemies of peace." "What else can you tell us about them?" said Levi. Ilsa began, "To make it simple and short, long ago we came to their world bringing the hope of helping them and breathing new life to their people. They were warmongers before we came. And sadly due to our arrival they became worse." Fumio frowned, "We tried to reason with them. But they kidnapped some of our people, tortured them for our secrets. It had gotten so worse that we had to retaliate." "You fought them," said Armin. Fumio nodded sadly. "It was a bloodbath on both sides, and has left their planet more scared than when we arrived. We managed to destroy most of our tech so they couldn't continue the violence. Our fleet left to continue our journey. But we missed one." "The Gotengo," said Mikasa. Ilsa nodded, "The last weapon they stole from us." Fumio continued, "So enraged they chased us, damaged our ship, but we managed to damage them in return. We came to your planet and we believed them to be dead." Maul gasped. "What is it, Maul?" asked Laura. "The last kaiju attack. I looked into the mind of the terror bird, it saw an object crashing down." "No doubt the Gotengo," said Ilsa. "But that was weeks ago, right?" said Hitch. "Yeah, way before you guys came," said Jean. "Care to explain that?" said Levi. "Why a wormhole, of course," said Ilsa. Everyone besides the Nebulons were confused. "Worm what?" asked Hang. Fumio rubbed the bridges of his nose. "Never mind all that, it can be explained later. Now that the enemies of peace are here, we all must be prepared for the worst. Unless the great predator gets rid of it, right?" said Dieter. "Perhaps," said Ilsa. "Of course they may be prepared for nearly everything." Fumio stood up. "Which is why I have gathered this small group of some of your finest soldiers." Levi raised an eyebrow again as he glanced at Hang smiling, Hitch poking at the tablecloth, and Marlowe tried to get her to stop. Dieter and Mobolt looked nervous at the mention. "Okay then, but why have you gathered them here?" Levi asked. Fumio spoke in detail. "During the attack with our enemies, a small section of our ship broke apart and landed somewhere in the forest near Tanakibo. Our scans show that the contents within are undamaged." "What contents?" asked Mickey. Both the Nebulons were silent for a while until Fumio spoke. "Something that if the enemies get their hands on would be complete and certain death for all life on this planet." Once more silence fills the room, and before anyone could speak the hall doors opened and man wearing a green uniform came running in nearly out of breath. Jean jumped out of his seat. "What the hell?" "It's one of our police," said Laura. The man stopped at Mickey and nearly collapsed if she had not held him still. "Miss Sigusa, I have seen they wear," spoke the man nearly out of breath. "Calm down, what do you have to tell me?" asked Mickey. "I heard voices, they were coming near the gate of the town. I checked it out and saw Sanda talking to a boy with green hair." "Sanda?" asked Maul. "What else?" asked Mickey. The man continued. "Madam, I overheard them, they're Titan shifters." Aaron stood up in shock along with Armin and Mikasa, but none more than Maul. "That can't be true," said Maul, "you must be mistaken, Sanda is not." "Maul." "Calm down," said Mickey looking at her with a calm face, but married with a look of worry. Mickey turned to the officer. "What did you hear them say?" The officer told them what he could hear from the two. Why you can't be here," said Sanda. Gabara smiled with traces of blood on his teeth. "You know Reiner was worried, he thought you were being tortured, but looks like you switched sides. I bet Reiner will be more mad at you than Gabara, eh? Sanda began to panic. No. You don't understand. Gara laughed. Oh, are you going to tell me that this was part of your plan to get in close to them? Please, you are not that smart, brother. Sanda began to shake again. I swear that stutter is going to be annoying. How about this, why don't you think of a way of speaking right while I go and kill and eat that man while listening in? Sanda stopped and turned around to see the officer. Gara smiled as he licked his lips, feeling hungry. The officer in fright quickly fled the scene. Gara was about to chase after him when Sanda grabbed him. No, more deaths, he shouted. Then Gara grabbed him. Well, looks like your friends will know your little secret after all. Smiled Gara. Sanda lowered his head, because he knew he was right. Time to go home, brother, said Gara, leading him to the forest. And that was all I could hear, the officer finished. Great, this is just great, shouted Jean. Is anyone else we know a Titan shifter? Well. The group turned to Fumio as he spoke. I believe we have another mission. Meanwhile, in the forest, Gotengo dodged another beam from Godzilla. Godzilla was growing very tired of this, and it just makes him even angrier. Gotengo fired a missile straight at him. Godzilla was about to fire, but the missile exploded in mid-air, releasing a blinding light. Godzilla rubbed his face trying to get his vision clear. But he noticed the area changing. He could see smoke rising from a large stone surface. Then he heard large footsteps. Godzilla looked up and saw a large creature, similar to creatures he feasted on, but larger and smiling. He heard a cry, a female cry, in his ears. Godzilla couldn't understand, but when he heard it, he felt terrified and upset. When he looked back at the large creature, it had something in its hand. The sound of the cry came from the creature's hand. The Titan raised the figure to its mouth and clamped down on it, the blood from the creature landing on Godzilla's face. Godzilla did not understand what he was feeling. He felt sad, scared, but most of all more angry than he had ever felt. His target was now long gone, but Godzilla didn't care. All he did was roar. At the edge of Tanakibo. The recent news about Sanda being a Titan shifter gave cause of great concern, so Fumio decided on expanding the group with Eren, Mikasa, Armin, Levi, Jean and... No! You can't go, Miss Sigusa, said Laura. Nikki sighed. Laura, I have been outside of Tanakibo before, you know. But this is more dangerous. Maul stepped up. She is right, please let me go in your place, Miss Sigusa. No, Mickey said sternly. Maul, I know why you want to go, but listen to me, the both of you. I have been training you both with your powers ever since we were children, and with me gone Tanakibo needs guidance. I cannot think of anyone more worthy of watching the town than you two. Laura hated it, but she trusted Mickey's judgment while Maul turned her head. She felt Mickey's hand on her shoulder. I'll make sure Sanda is brought back alive. Maul nodded. Mickey then walked to Sasha and Connie. You two will stay behind, hopefully Anguirus will be healed by the time we get back. So I'm counting on the Kaiju Corps to defend Tanakibo. Actually, I'm not a member of this corps, said Connie. Consider yourself inducted, said Maul. Connie sighed while Jean chuckled at this. And here I thought the overgrown armadillo would be a disaster for you. Jean suddenly felt both of his arms pulled hard across his back. He turned to see Sasha wearing an expression of complete rage. What did you say about my boy? She growled. Jean was sweating up with fright and in pain. I'm sorry. Anguirus is a great monster. Sasha pulled. I mean, he is a great member of the group and we are so lucky to have someone like him defending humanity. Sasha let go and smiled happily. Good. And don't worry, Nikki, the Kaiju Corps can handle anything, be it a Titan or a Kaiju. Sasha saluted and walked to Anguirus's resting at the edge. Armin gulped. Do you guys remember when she would make a big deal about food? Jean rubbed his arms. You know, Jaeger, for a moment I thought that was you pulling my arm. Too scared to try it? Mikasa sighed and Armin scooted away. But Aaron just stood there. Why bother? Besides, you should know never to say anything bad about Anguirus in front of Sasha. Now come on, we have more important things to do, said Aaron, walking to Levi. The group was surprised at this. Normally Aaron would get really angry at Jean. But now Aaron feels calm. Aaron walked up to Levi. Everyone is ready, Captain. Levi nodded. Now are you sure this will work, he said, holding what seems like a belt. Yes, said Fumio. These belts will release a gas that will keep the kaijus from going anywhere near us. Sadly it will not work on the Titans, said Ilsa. Sure, why not, said Marlowe. Hang was drooling over the belts. It only took the combined strength of Moblet and Ditch to keep her from grabbing all of them. Thankfully, all the belts went to the group and they carefully entered the forest on horseback except for Fumio and Ilsa, who walked on foot. They continued the journey, carefully watching for any signs of attack from either kaiju or titans. Soon Fumio and Ilsa managed to get ahead of the group, despite the rest on horses. How can those guys walk so fast, said Jean. After everything they can do, and that is what you're asking, said Hitch. Suddenly the two Nebulons stopped. What's wrong, said Mickey. Ilsa looked at her and pointed to the ground. I have found footprints that match Sanda's foot size leading right. Good. Then they will be easy to find and dash, but Armin was interrupted by Fumio holding a device. But our devices have detected energy traces on the far left of the forest. And what are these traces from, asked Hang, getting excited. They are from the capsule from our ship. The group was silent. Is this the same capsule that if it falls to the wrong hands would kill us all, said Jean. Fumio nodded. So are we going to find this capsule instead of Sanda, said Dieter. Actually, I was thinking on us splitting into two groups, said Fumio, one to find Sanda and the other to the capsule. That would work, said Levi. Excellent, said Fumio. Now I shall take Armin, Dieter, Hang, Morblet, Marlowe and Hitch with me to find Sanda. The rest of you with Ilsa to find the capsule. Aaron stepped up. I don't know, maybe we should stay together. You may be right, Jaeger, but as of right now we can't afford to focus our attention on only one, so we stick with their plan, said Levi. Aaron sighed but nodded, causing Armin, Mikasa, and Mickey to be surprised at that. Not another outburst, not even arguing about it. Wait. The group turned to Marlowe. What about the Gotengo? Ilsa looked at her pad. According to my scans, the ship flew past the area. My guess is that due to the great predator attacking them they didn't have time to scan it. But all in all we must take it before they discover the traces. So it was decided that the two groups should separate. Armin, said Mickey. Armin looked at Mickey as she placed her hand on his shoulder. Be careful. Armin blushed, thanks you too. Hang huffed, this is no fair. I wanted to see the Gotengo and the other aliens. Morblet sighed. What makes you think they will be near the capsule? It's where I would be if I knew there was something my chaser had that can destroy them easily. Is it scary that she might be right, said Marlowe. Soon they headed out. Group 1 led by Levi and Ilsa and Group 2 led by Fumio headed their way. Moments pasted, but soon enough Group 1 stopped. We found it, said Ilsa. The capsule. In front of them was a large cylinder on its sides. It was the size of a house. And it was covered in burned marks and broken tree barks. That is one big capsule, said Jean. Everyone looked around. Ilsa said there could be an entrance, said Levi. If you find it, report it to me at once, said Ilsa. I will watch out for any titans. And how are you going to stop them? You don't have any gear, said Jean. Ilsa said nothing but looked over her pad. Soon everyone started to search around the capsule. Aaron was with Mickey looking at the left side of the large object, each of them looking for what could be a hole or a door as Ilsa called it. Aaron turned around to see Mickey looking at him with concern. Yes? I got to ask you, are you feeling okay? Asked Mickey. Aaron raised an eyebrow. Why do you ask that? Well, it's just and I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but you don't seem to act like yourself. Aaron looked confused. What do you mean? Mickey began to rub her fingers nervously. What I mean to say is, you're not showing much anger. Eren looked at her, and then began to realize what she was saying. He didn't feel the large amount of rage he felt before the attack. Is that bad? Said Eren. No. Mickey said, smiling. This is good. I think we might have a breakthrough. Of course, it is strange for you to feel it now. Then Mickey saw water leaving Eren's eyes, then he pulled her into a hug. Mickey was shocked at this event. Eren? She felt tears dripping down her shoulder and Eren trembling. Thank you, he sobbed and repeated. Mickey smiled at this and hugged him tight. To Eren it felt like his mother hugging him. This moment did not go unseen. Mikasa came to help out Eren, but when she saw Mickey, she stopped and was shocked at what happened. She left the area and went on the other side of the object. She was not upset by the hug. Well, maybe a little. She was upset that after all the times of staying by Eren's side ever since his mother's death, she tried to protect him. But never once had she tried to help with his anger, and yet, Mickey managed to do that. If she just gets in Eren's way, she may be able to kill a titan and even a kaiju. But when Eren was in the grasp of the great predator, there was nothing she could have done to save him. She was not strong enough to fight something that big, she was not strong enough to fight that new titan shifter. She was. Mikasa stopped, she turned and saw a small flicker of light from a pile of wood and leaves. Carefully, she removed the pile and saw a human-sized hole. Instead of alerting the others, curiosity got the better of her and went in. The inside reminded Mikasa of the Nebulon ship, but darkened wires sticking out, no doubt damage from the Gotengo. Then she saw that flicker of yellow light again, this time it was coming from a large doorway. Mikasa walked inside the huge metal entrance. Inside she saw a huge room filled with panels. Some were damaged while others appeared to be fully operating, but what really caught her eye was the source of the light. Standing right in front of the room was a large cylinder. The object was see-through, giving her the view of what it contains. The light she saw was like lightning, it was swarming around like an angry swarm of bees. Suddenly the swarm conjoined into an orb. To her shock, 3 objects started to sprout from the orb. Terror struck her face as the 3 objects took the appearance of serpent-like creatures. The 3 creatures stared at her. Mikasa moved back, but doing so she did not notice touching one of the buttons of the panel near her. The cylinder started to glow and opened, then lightning started to move freely around the room, hitting every object except Mikasa. Mixes was petrified as she looked at the 3-headed creature. All 3 heads reared back and lunged at her. What was that? Said Levi at the back of the object. That sounded like Mikasa, said Jean. Soon the 2 followed the cry at the hole and both entered. They found the room and Mikasa laying on the ground. Mikasa, shouted Jean, rushing to her, are you Mikasa alive? Levi looked around the room and back to her. No marks on her, so she wasn't attacked, he whispered. Mikasa slowly stood up, rubbing her head. Are you okay, Mikasa? Said Jean. Of course I'm alright, she said, slowly standing up. Did you find anything in here? Levi asked. Nothing, sir, just light. Levi looked at Mikasa, then sighed. Our Nebulon friends are not going to like this. Come on, we might as well report. Mikasa started to follow, but she looked to her left and on the wall a creature with golden skin looked at her. Mikasa flinched and bumped into Jean. Hey, are you sure you're alright? Mikasa looked at him and back to the wall, seeing her reflection. Yes, I'm fine. The 2 started to catch up with Levi, neither knowing that a small strike of lightning swarmed across Mikasa's eye. That's it for this video, I hope you guys enjoyed this part. If you want more, like this video, hit that notification bell, and maybe even give a comment on your thoughts on the video. With that being said, I'll see you all in the next part.